Welcome to another episode of The Shredder Show, and today I'm going to talk you through why you're fat. Now, there's going to be some things in this that are going to be very harsh truths for a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of very harsh criticism of things you need to probably take on board. So if you're in the reality right now where you're severely unhappy with the way you look, you've got big old man titties, you've got a big gut, you're not happy in terms of how your clothes fit, there's a couple of things you really need to understand from this. Now, number one is that the reality of this is that's your fault. And the second thing you need to understand is you cannot blame anyone else for this. So the reality of the way you look has more dependence on your own actions and your own thought processes than anything else in life. So if we compare this to a business example, in business there's a lot of external factors in terms of whether a business is successful or not. So if we look at something like the COVID incident happened in 2020, which I'm not going to get into because it's probably get banned, has huge external factors you can't control. Now, when you look at the way you physically look, that's down to two primary things. Number one, the food you put in your body. Number two, the amount of energy you burn every single day in terms of what you do every single day. So you can't blame your family, you can't blame your parents, you can't blame your upbringing. And I remember my parents saying one thing to me before was that there was no fat people in Auschwitz. And it's a very harsh reality when people say that their metabolism's fucked. It was like, the reality is your metabolism's fucked because you've probably eaten too much. Like, your body can only burn calories at a certain rate, and your body's in the position it is now because of the poor actions you're taking at a single basis. And one of the really important things to understand, and I can't drum this home enough, is that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if we look at your car, for example, if you go into a car parking lot and you look around and you see that certain cars are full of rubbish, they've got burger wrappers, sweet wrappers, I guarantee if you went and found the person who owns the car, their house is probably a mess, their body is probably a mess, their bank balance is probably a mess, the whole life is probably upside down. So the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So it's a really important thing to understand that the small habits of what you do, even from waking up in the morning to making your bed, to paying bills on time, to putting the rubbish out, like your house not being a shithole, these things make a big difference. And those small little decisions, micro decisions you make every single day are the habits that are going to form who you are. And that includes the way you look. So one of the most important things you have to think about is the standards you set for yourself. The standards you set for yourself in life will determine the outcome of the way you look, the way you feel, how much money you have, what your family looks like, where you live, and this is down to you. So the reality is you have a choice. You have a choice to set yourself low standards, or you have a choice to set yourself very high standards. And two biggest things that happen in terms of you achieving what you want with your body or your business in life, and that's the two biggest factors to think about. Number one is the partner you decide to spend the rest of your life with. So is your partner self-sabotaging you in terms of your fat loss journey at the moment? Is she sitting on the sofa trying to make you eat Easter eggs? Is she ordering takeaway food? Is she filling the house full of shit? And also, this could be right now, is she trying to sabotage you from losing weight? Because one of the things I see over and over again is this. We get a guy join our program, gets shredded, drops loads of weight in 8 to 12 weeks, looks great, feels great. And then guess what? His missus starts giving him shit. Why? And this used to happen to me actually with my previous partner. And I can tell you why. Because you're starting to look really, really good. You're probably starting to get more attention from other women. Now, what happens with this scenario is this makes your partner feel bad and insignificant because you're almost outgrowing her. You're becoming better than her. Now, what you want to think about with this is that's not about you trying to be better than her, but being better for her. And the reality with this is that it's your job to try and help raise her up to your standard and not lower yourself to her standard. And the reality is if she's not willing to raise to the standard of where you want to be, or if you're a lady, your husband's in the same situation, then maybe they're not the right person. And that's the brutal truth. Because the most important thing you have in life is your body. That's the vehicle you have for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, however long you're going to live. My goal is to try and live to 120, and I've said, explained before, like the big four things you need to try and avoid to make sure you can try and live to 120 is cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and diabetes. There's one more, high blood pressure, like heart attacks, coronary heart disease. So if you can avoid those four things, statistically, you should live to 120. So when you start to think about risk mitigation, that's how you should be getting there. And if your partner doesn't align with the values of what you want to do, then one really easy way to do this is to sit down and explain to her why you're looking to get in shape. It's not because you want to go to Cancun and pick up loads of attractive women, blonde women by the pool because they're so impressed with how great you look. The reality is you probably just want to be a better version of yourself, and you're probably not happy with the way you look. And I explain like fat loss is like a flywheel or like a snowball going down a hill if you're in Canada or somewhere cold. So it's hard to get the fat loss wheel moving. Once you get a little bit of momentum, it goes faster. And let me explain why. The reality is why it starts to go faster. The reason that you're currently fat right now is you don't believe you can lose weight and get in the shape you want. Now, what happens when you start to get the flywheel to move, or you start working with a coach, or you start doing your own thing, seeing a bit of progress, you see the body fat come off, the scale start to move, you're like, holy fucking shit, I can do this. And that's the reality is, the thing that's holding you back right now is probably a lack of confidence. You don't believe you can actually achieve what you want. So an easier way to overcome that is this, something I've been doing the last few months, and that's sitting down first thing in the morning and writing your goals in present tense. So for example, I have 6-pack abs, I can bench press 100 kilos, I have a net worth of X amount, I have a beautiful family, I go on holiday to the Maldives every month, whatever it might be. Write these things in present tense and your mind will start to believe them. And the reality is that and having your partner aligned with that is a huge thing. Now, the second biggest thing that's going to determine your results in terms of fat loss and life in general is your environment, the people you hang around with. The expression of like you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around with is a huge thing. So if we look at how that works, one of the most important things to understand is that your thoughts aren't really your own thoughts. Your thoughts are placed in your head based upon the conversations you have with other people, the information you read on a daily basis, the shit you see on social media. So you're not actually thinking for yourself. You're interpreting other people's information, and that can then be very blurred. This is why, if you're watching this right now, one of the best things you can do for your life and your sanity is not watch the news. Don't read the Daily Mail, don't read the Wall Street Journal, don't read any of that crap. Just don't stay away from the news, because everything has an agenda, and it's an important thing to sometimes understand that. If something really important is happening, someone's probably going to tell you, like the COVID incident, right? And that's actually a good example, because that wasn't true, a lot of that. So your environment is huge. So that's in terms of the information you're absorbing, who you're hanging around, and also your physical location. So maybe even the gym you live in, you train in. If you're training at Planet Fitness and they give pizza to all their members all the time and they accept mediocrity, then that's the reality in terms of the way you're probably going to look, because you're setting the goal very low. Whereas if you set the goal very high for yourself, there's an expression, if you shoot for the stars and you miss, you'll end up at the moon, or whatever the expression is, something like that. You get the point that if you set the goal very high, if you set the goal to get to a super high standard, even if you get 80% of the way there, guess what? You're going to go very, very far. And the reality is people don't set big enough goals because they lack confidence, they lack conviction, and they have people in their environment that hold them down. So how can you set up your environment to allow you to get in better shape and see more success with what you want with your body? Firstly, look at the information that you take in. So follow the right people on social media. So if you're not already following me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, what else have I got? Twitter, look up Charlie Johnson Fitness. I put up tons and tons of educational fat loss content. I've got 1,000 videos on YouTube. This is real advice in terms of what actually works, and a no bullshit approach, which is, I think, is something British people are renowned for. So surround yourself with that type of information, and that will fill your brain with the actual type of knowledge that works. Second thing is being in a community of like-minded people that's going to actually help you to achieve the goal you want, because fat loss can be a very lonely journey and quite a sad one in some respects, because other people don't understand. Same as entrepreneurship, people don't understand. And when people say you're crazy and you're working too hard to achieve a goal, whether it be with your physique or with your business, that's a really good sign. If they say you're working too hard, define working too hard. That's compared to them. But do you want to look like them? Do you want a lifestyle like them? And that's an important thing, is only take advice from people who actually have what you want. So an example I give from this is, would you take financial advice from someone who's broke? Probably not. So why are you taking advice from Sally down the street about you're eating too much protein? And I'll give an example. I went to a doctor's here, to be frank, doctors have sperm frozen, which is a random thing, because I'd like to have kids one day. And guy was really overweight, who was a doctor, and he was having a pop at me about taking protein powder. I was like, dude, you're like 10 stone overweight. The reality of me taking an extra 50 grams of protein from protein powder a day is not going to cause me any life issues. And that would be an example of like listening to people who have the things you want, rather than just taking information on information's sake. And one of the most important things that people lack the skill to do right now is critical thinking. You believe everything you're told, so learn to think for yourself. Like, you have access to all of the information in the world right now. You have all the information you need to actually lose weight right now. Like, you can type into Google whatever you want and it'll give you the answer. The reality is that the next thing that's going to hold you back is obviously not having people around you to keep you motivated, because what happens, you don't actually want to be focused on being motivated to lose body fat. What you actually want is to be disciplined, because motivation will go up and go down naturally. That happens to me, happens to everyone. Sometimes you can't be fucking arsed, and that's just the reality. But what happens is when you're disciplined, you do what you have to do when you don't want to do it. And when you can do what you have to do when you don't want to do it, that becomes a superpower, because whatever you actually need to get done just gets fucking done. And that's the reality of what separates the people who actually achieve what they want with their body, with their business, with their mind, and those that don't. So the reality is what you want to focus on doing is the habits and the discipline to become the person you want. And a lot of that comes down from being around the right people who have those character traits. Whereas if you're hanging around with people who are pissing around, playing FIFA, getting up late, drinking at the weekend, that's probably not going to take you to where you want to be, because their negative influence is going to rub off on you. So the big thing I want you to focus on is not focusing on accepting mediocrity, and think about bringing other people down to their level. Try and bring people up to your level, or find other people on your level is a really important thing to do. Now, if you're in the position now you're not happy with where you're at, there's a really important thing you need to do. And I say this to people all the time. You need to draw a line in the sand and decide, I either accept that I'm going to be the fucking way I am right now, and I accept that I'm not very healthy, I'm not very happy with the way I look, I'm not very proud of myself, or you draw a line in the sand, you step over that and decide, this is the new person I'm going to be, and these are the new habits I'm going to have. So, for example, the way I explain that is, if you want to have six-pack abs and walk down the beach in Dubai or Marbella in 12 weeks, 6 months' time, the reality is you need to think about what are the habits that version of you would have, because that's what you need to install today, and that's what you need to actually start thinking about. And the best thing that happens in terms of you creating the best version of you is not you having the best body you've ever had, it's the person you become in the process of creating that body. It's the mindset shifts, the way you see the world, and the character traits that you learn that then will compound for you for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And this is the most important thing that I've learned since I first got in shape when I was probably 25, 26. I then left my estate agency full-time 9-to-5 job to go on this mission to help people all over the world. And that's a reality in terms of what's really going to help set you apart, is you creating the right skills and having a positive mental attitude that rubs off on other people. So my message to you today is, like, you have a choice. You have a choice to either achieve the body you want, or you have a choice to stay the way you are. And the cumulative effect in terms of where you are right now is your own choice. So if you're not happy with the way you look, you're not happy with your own life, that is a choice. So the reality is, in terms of going forward from here, if you want to make a change, we're here to help you. So the reality is, the next step from that, if you want to get in the best shape of your life, feel free to check out any of the free content that's on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Listen to the podcast. We've got 300-400 episodes on here. Make sure you subscribe, share it with a friend. If this episode has lit you up a fire up your ass about you actually taking action, share it with a friend who needs to listen to it. And if you want to get in your best shape ever, drop me a message on Instagram. Would love to help. Let me know you listen to the podcast. Leave a 5-star review on this. And if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe and comment below. And we'll see you in the next episode very soon.